Welcome to Talk Travel with Heather Tate, North Mississippi's podcast for savvy travelers. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is a weekly podcast that airs every Monday on the Shark 102.3 FM radio station based in Ripley, Mississippi, and is then released as a podcast. Travel advisor and travel enthusiast Heather Tate of Whimsical Destinations gives listeners expert travel tips curated through the years of personal and professional experience. By clicking subscribe, you'll have a new travel tip to add to your collection delivered to your podcast library every Monday. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is brought to you by Sun Bear Studio. Sun Bear Studio is a boutique recording studio in the heart of Ripley, Mississippi. When you record with us at Sun Bear Studio, we can mix, master, register, and publish your music, your podcast, or your family story. Email us when you're ready at sunbear@jc.media.
This program was recorded at Sun Bear Studio in Ripley, Mississippi.
Good morning, Northeast Mississippi travelers. This is Heather with Talk Travel with Heather Tate, and I'm so excited to share my adventures and tried and true tips with you, whether you are also a seasoned traveler, a hopeful traveler, or currently an armchair traveler, meaning you're going to follow along with us from home for now. This is our 156th episode of Talk Travel with Heather Tate. And this week, I'm going to share all about preparing for Europe. Now, I know that, Europe may not be on everyone's bucket list, but it is something that I'm asked about quite frequently from my guests. And I don't book a lot of Europe anymore for my guests. I don't specialize in Europe. I do Mediterranean cruises, and I've booked a lot of Europe in the past. But for me, Europe is still one of my favorite places. And it is a place that I love to go once a year if I can. And so there are some types of trips that require a lot more planning and preparation than others. For example, I can book a last-minute trip to the Caribbean with a week's notice, no problem. Know exactly what I need to take, how, it's easy for me because I do it so often. However, traveling to Europe usually takes me months to get ready. Last year, our family's big summer adventure was to London, England. That is something I had been planning for years in my mind, like adding to my list of what I wanted to do, what I was going to, want to take when I went there, ideas of places to stay, things where we wanted to go eat, all the things. So it takes me more because I think if I don't know if I'm going to go back there very regularly, and it takes a lot more effort to get there, it costs a lot more money to fly, takes the time to fly. You need time for Europe. Like, I'm not going there on a 3-night weekend. Then there's more preparation. But there's other things as well that you need to know about. This year, we are not only going back to Europe, but we were going to spend 7 nights on a yacht in Croatia, cruising the Adriatic Sea. We've cruised a lot, but this is our first time on a yacht. So lots of planning needed to go into this. This is something that had been in my mind for a couple of years that I wanted to do, but it was actually last fall that we decided we were going to go from, okay, this is something we want to do one day, to let's do this next year. Let's get on board this yacht with only 20 cabins and have a much more intimate experience than the last time we were on board a vessel, which was the Wonder of the Seas, Royal Caribbean's 3rd largest ship at that time. So how did we prepare for this type of trip? I'm going to go over with you some of the basics of what you would need to know when planning a trip to Europe, just some basics. And then I'm going to give you some next level suggestions. And then I'm going to, if we have time, which I'm sure we'll have some time, I'm going to tell you about packing, what I pack and how I pack it. Okay, so let's get started. First things first, if you're going anywhere out of the country, you need a passport. And if you already have a passport, then you need to make sure that it's going to be valid at least 6 months after travel. So first step, check your passports. If you have them, great. Are they valid for 6 months after travel? Wonderful. Then other options, looking into flights. Where are you going to fly into? Where do you want to fly out of? So we were checking our flights for months, really, trying to decide when we were going to actually book them. We needed to go a couple days early. So if you're going to meet a cruise, you don't ever want to fly in the day your cruise leaves, or in this case, the yacht leaves. You want to give yourself a buffer, especially when traveling on a holiday in the summer. So we're actually leaving 3 days before our yacht is leaving. So we wanted to give ourselves plenty of time in case there was a missed connection or flight delays, to give ourselves some wiggle room there. Other things that you need to plan if you're going on a cruise, your pre and post stay. So your accommodations in general. So most of our accommodations are going to be on the yacht because we're going for about 12, 13 days. And so the yacht's going to take up 7 nights, but we needed both where we're going to stay at the beginning of the trip and at the end. So that's something to make sure. Those are the basics that you need to do. Transfers, every location's different. So if you're going to a major city in Europe, are you going to use trains? Are you going to London and you're going to use the tube, which is the underground? Are you going to have private transfers, do a shuttle? Is a resort where are you going to stay at a resort? Are you doing another accommodation where you need to arrange those transfers? So those are all things to keep in mind. How you're going to get from the airport to where you're staying. Do you need to rent a car? There's some countries that I would feel more comfortable renting a car than others. And so it depends on, where you're going, if that's something you're wanting to do. Do you need to hire a driver? What are your options? So think about your transportation whilst there and getting to and from the airport. Okay, next level things in the planning part. Oh, let me say one more thing about flights, just to give you this idea. Be prepared to check multiple places for where you're leaving from. I get asked this all the time because I mostly book the Caribbean. Where should we fly from? Well, the majority of clients are going to want to fly closest to them, Memphis or Birmingham in our case, but I will tell you this, most of the time that's not the best price option. Sometimes it is. Nashville can have really good prices for international flights, but we like to fly out of Atlanta. Sometimes it's best price, but it's almost always best in convenience for us. So as far as the flying goes, we did not want to have multiple layovers. The more layovers you have, the more room for missed connections or travel delays. We would have loved a nonstop flight, but that was not an option for this trip. Last year we did nonstop from Atlanta to London. You can go nonstop from Nashville to a lot of places now in Europe, including London and Dublin, and I believe even Iceland. So there's some options there. But we're going to Croatia. So we did not have a nonstop option, but we did have an option with only one layover in Amsterdam, both ways. And we were familiar with Amsterdam because we have stayed there before. So that is why we chose that. We chose a carrier that we were very familiar with, which is Delta. And so we were able to, and KLM, their partners. So we decided we wanted to make it as easy as possible. So that's a little bit about flights. You can check to see if the days before or after you're looking at look better flight priced, and that's when you can gear your trip to if you have some flexibility. Okay, other next level things. We now have global entry, and we got approved for global entry and started this process. I have a whole episode about this topic if you're interested. We did this for the sole reason of Croatia. That was our motivation to get the ball rolling on this. Another thing that doesn't cost anything is to register for the STEP program. This was all Logan's doing because he is the one that's going to be next level when it comes to preparation for things. So the STEP program it stands for the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. It's free. When you register your trip, where you're going and your dates, you'll get updates on weather, health, safety, and security, all the things that are going on in the area. They start like the month before you're traveling, giving you updates and feedback. Also, you're going to enter your contact information because then your U.S. embassy in the country where you're going to will know how to reach you, how they can contact you while you're there if there were an issue, if there's a natural disaster, or if there's a safety concern. They'll be able to contact you. Even if you had an emergency back home, people will be able to contact the U.S. embassy and they can reach you if they're having trouble reaching you. So I recommend this. This is all Logan's doing on us being registered. You have one person that likes to plan the fun things, where you're staying, the activities, the outfits. That's me, the restaurants. And then Logan does a lot of the behind the scenes things. So that's why together we make a wonderful team. But that is something that he has started doing for every international trip. And you even get feedback, I think like a week after travel about the location, for you. Call your credit card company if you've never done it before and you have a new card. If you need to set up your PIN number with your credit cards, we recommend traveling with credit cards, not debit cards. Make sure you have a variety. There are some credit cards that are not widely accepted, like American Express and Discover. Visa and MasterCard are more accepted globally, so keep that in mind. But make sure you do have that PIN number and you know what your PIN number is before you're traveling. We order euros from our bank. Now, you're going to get different feedback from this, but depending on which bank you use, it may be advantageous for you to order euros before you go. It was not going to add much for us to do that, and the convenience of having some with us when we went over there, we decided it'd be worth it. And you can get money out of an ATM, but make sure you know what the charges are going to be with your card if you do that. A power adapter, if you're traveling to another country and you need to have multiple plugs or make sure that you have a power converter, you want to have that for when you're traveling internationally. So we always have that. All right, I'm just going to give you just a little bit on packing. Oh, I say just a little bit. Really, there's so much I could talk about packing, a whole nother topic. But we bring a carry-on suitcase and a backpack when we're traveling. We did this last year when we were traveling internationally, so I didn't check anything. We just did this so we kept our luggage with us. We are going to try to limit what we're packing in here to make sure we have some extra space. Shoes take up the most room. We're not going to have a washing machine. So if you're traveling internationally, you're going to Europe and you're going to have a washing machine, then that makes your life easier. We do not when we're traveling. So breathable clothes, I'm bringing thin dresses. I'm also going to have a cardigan, a hat, sunglasses. I always bring at least one or maybe two scarves that could change an outfit and make sure shoulders are covered depending on where you're traveling. Sometimes you need your shoulders covered. Where we're going to Croatia, we need either water shoes or water socks. So water socks take up less room. Goggles. We're going to have limit the shoes, like I said, 3 pair max for each of us. I'm going to have 2 pair of pants, 2 skirts, and the rest dresses, because those take up less room for me, and I prefer to wear dresses anyways. I'm also going to try to do some things that can mix and match if I want to have multiple outfits, like I have some striped neutral pants and some white pants. So I'm going to bring a few blouses. I can mix up, and that gives me a lot more outfit options. The boys and myself, we're only going to have 2 to 3 swimsuits each. It'd be really fun to have a different swimsuit every day. That's just more to keep up with, and we're not going to need that. So 2 to 3. Sleepwear, I'm going to minimize. Like, I'm not going to have, for 13 days, I'm not going to have, a sleep shirt and shorts for every day. I'm going to look at, okay, I'm just going to be sleeping in this. I'm going to have taken a shower before bed. Like, I'm going to try to reuse some of my sleepwear. Or for the boys, keep in mind for their T-shirts, they will first wear them when they're, clean and sleeping in them. And so then they have them for another day when they're out and about that they can wear those. Our phones, our cords. I really want to get a GoPro, so that's on my list. I haven't told Logan that I really think I'm going to pack one of those. Also, a waterproof bag. Have that. And lastly, so beach bags can take up a lot of room. So what I have found in my carry-on, what I like to do is I like to have like one of those reusable bags from TJ Maxx. They can have really fun summer travel type themes or beach themes, and they're $1.99. And I can get a couple of those. Big Ziploc bags in case you have anything that's wet that, you can dry, but as best as you can, but you don't want it to mix in with your other clothes. Having some, gallon-size Ziploc bags. Books. I'm the one that's most guilty of taking the most books. I'm limiting myself to 3. Logan is bringing a Kindle. We now have Kindle Unlimited, so that is going to be an easy option for us. But I have to have an actual book in my hand, and I can read a book on the plane there, on the plane back, and a yacht. I know I could do less than 3. I know I could, but guess what? I'm going to pack it in a carry-on and a backpack, and I will even show you guys on our Facebook group, Heather and Logan Tate, Whimsical Destinations. I'm going to show everything that I am packing for this trip, and you'll be able to see it. So you'd be surprised how much you can bring in a good carry-on bag and backpack. That's all the time we have for this week's episode of Talk Travel with Heather Tate. Thank you for joining us as I talked about our preparation for Europe. Wherever you're going, whether it's a near or far vacation, an adventure, I hope that this is an amazing week. Make those memories with your families. Life is short. Take the trip. You won't regret it.
This show is made possible by JC Media, LLC in Ripley, Mississippi. JC Media owns the Shark 102.3 Classic Rock FM radio station where the show is hosted, and Sun Bear Recording Studio where the interviews are recorded. We need your feedback and support. If you listen to the podcast on a player like iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Amazon Music, please subscribe to the show and leave us a review. We also have an email in which you can share your feedback. That email is theshark1023@gmail.com. Subscribe to our podcast on your favorite app or stream episodes online at shark1023.com/podcasts. Today's episode was produced by Melinda Marsalis. It was edited by Rick Williams and engineered by Chris Marsalis. The podcast technician is Joyce Grady.